what's up everybody? Welcome back to the poker vlog. This is episode 49. It is 4:15 in the afternoon, Saturday afternoon. I think it's June the 12th or something like that. I don't know. I'll put the date up here or in the intro somewhere. And we are on the list for both 1-3 and 2-5 at Bellagio. There's a lot of people on the list for both 1-3 and 2-5 at Bellagio. So we'll see where we get a seat first. We're going to jump in to one of those games. If we jump into 1-3, I'm going to switch to 2-5 later. If we jump into 2-5, we're just going to stick with 2-5 for the session. So that is that. I will see you guys at the table.
Sit down at the table and we play our small blind and we play our big blind, and then as soon as we are on the button, we pick up a premium holding with pocket jacks. Better yet, we see an under the gun position raise. He makes it 15 to go. I know this player fairly well. I've played with him quite a few times. I would say he's a competent reg, but I definitely think a 3-bet is in order here. I think we want to get a little bit more in the pot here in position, so I bump it up. I make it 45 to go. The blinds both get out of the way, and now it's back over to our friend in early position, who thinks about it for a little bit here. He puts in quite a bit of thought before finally deciding on a call. So we're going to go heads up here to a flop. What have you got for us, dealer? Not the best board in the world when we see a queen high board here. Flop is queen of clubs, 5 of diamonds, 6 of hearts. Player checks it over to me, and I think I want to continue bet here. I think I want to go with a range bet. I think I want to go on the smaller side too, so I settle on $35 here. Player thinks about it for a bit, and again, he decides that calling is the right course of action here on this flop. So we're going to go to a turn card here in a 3-bet pot, and the turn pairs the board. It's the 5 of hearts. Under the gun checks it over to me, and I think I want to continue to bet small on this card here for a variety of reasons. So I settle on a $75 bet. I go ahead and announce the bet, and he pretty much snap folds as soon as I announce the continuation here. He gets out of there, and we end up taking down this first pot to start the session here. A good start, I would say, to the session. So let's see if we can continue the good run here. One of the things I've been working on in my game is finding spots where I can profitably 3-bet pre-flop more often, and I think when I pick up a hand like ace queen of spades, effectively I'm in the small blind here, but we did have a player who posted and bought the button, so that's why you don't see my blind, but I'm effectively in the small blind here, and I see a raise from the cutoff to 15. I bump it up. I make it 45 to go. He doesn't think long at all and just snap calls this 3-bet. So we are going to go heads up here to a flop out of position in a 3-bet pot with a pretty strong holding, I might add. Unfortunately, the flop is not much help. It's 9-3 deuce all diamonds. So I go ahead and I check here out of position like I would with my entire range, and he quickly checks back. Turn is no help to us. It's the jack of clubs. I check again, and he quickly checks back as well. So we're off to a river, which is the deuce of spades, pairing the board. I go ahead and check. I think our ace high can be good here. He quickly checks back. I announce that we have ace high. He says he missed and mucks his cards face down, and we end up winning this one without any contest here. Let me know if you think there was any street there where I should have fired a bet. I think going to showdown here is fine, but I'm curious what all of you think. Let me know in the comments below. All right, nothing too crazy to report here, but I'm in the low jack with a suited ace. We've got ace-3 of spades. Folds to me, and I go ahead and raise this up. I make it 15 to go. Perfectly acceptable hand here, I think, to get it in and get some action going, if you will. Unfortunately, the hijack decides to fold. The cutoff decides to fold. The button decides to fold. Now I'm just thinking, are any of the blinds going to call here? And unfortunately, they do not. We end up just taking this one down pre-flop and just stealing the blinds, as they say. Right, in this one we've got the snowmen, pocket eights. We are in the hijack, and the low jack player limps in. I go ahead and raise this up as I would here with most pairs. I make it 15 to go, really just trying to isolate with the player who limped. But the cutoff decides to come along and spoil the party, and then the big blind decides to come along and spoil the party as well. And of course, when both of those players call, the domino effect is in order here, and the low jack calls as well. So we're going to go 4 ways here to a flop. Flop comes down king 4 deuce rainbow. Not great for our pocket 8s, so when the big blind checks and the low jack player decides to donk here for $20, I just go ahead and fold. Not sure if I should be doing anything different against a donk bet here, but I just go ahead and let my cards go. Can't imagine they're all too good in that spot. One of the interesting things in live poker is it seems like you either get 3 callers or you get 0 callers. I've got 7-6 of spades in middle position. I raised it up to 15, thinking we're going to get at least 1 or 2 callers, and we end up getting 0 callers. No one gets in there, and we end up stealing the blinds once again here. Just one of those funny things about poker. It seems like it's either everyone gets in the pot or no one gets in the pot. Another interesting spot here. We've got pocket jacks once again. This is the second time in the session we've picked up pocket jacks, although this time we are out of position. We're in the small blind. And we see a raise from a player in the low jack spot. He raises it up pretty large here. He makes it 25 to go pre-flop. Definitely think a 3-bet is in order here, and I think I make a mistake here with my sizing. So after everyone else gets out of the way, I decide to go ahead and announce a raise here, and I announce $65, which I think is way too small, being that we are out of position against a late position raise or middle position raise. That's a little bit on the larger side. He made it 25. I think I should be at least sizing to 75 here at the very least, but more than likely I should go like 85 or 90 in this spot. And I just, made a mistake here and went too small, and he snap calls this 3-bet, and we're going to go heads up here to a flop. And we see a flop of queen 3-6 with 2 hearts. I'm going to go ahead and check this being out of position, and the player immediately snap goes all in. You see him push in his blue chips there, and I instantly fold. Not sure exactly what the heck he's representing. I mean, he's going all in for like $400 here on the flop. Maybe he flopped a queen. Maybe he has a heart draw. I don't know. I don't think I can call there for almost 100 big blinds. Let me know what you all think he might be doing that with. Like, would he do that with ace-king or ace-queen if he had value? I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments.
All right, guys, so I've been looking all over for this hand that I played on Sunday for this vlog, and apparently for whatever reason I just never hit record on the camera, so there's no footage. And I wanted to share the hand with you because it was a decent hand and it was a decent pot. So let's do that, okay? Let's share the hand. All right, so we've got ace-10 offsuit on the button. I believe it was ace of spades. No, ace of clubs. It was ace of clubs, 10 of hearts, I believe is the exact hand. So we've got about a $500 effective stack, and we see a limp from early position, and under the gun player puts in the limp. We get another limp from a later position player in the low jack. And when the action gets to me on the button, I go ahead and raise things up. I make it 15 to go. Both players put in the call. So we've got a player in under the gun position who called and a player in the low jack position who called. And I'm on the button, so I've got position on both players. And we see a pretty decent flop. It's ace, jack, 9, rainbow. I believe it was ace of hearts, jack of diamonds, 9 of spades was the exact run out. And under the gun decides to donk here on this flop. So he bets out for $20. The low jack folds. And of course, I've got a top pair hand with some backdoor draw possibilities. I'm not going anywhere, so I put in the call, and the turn is the ace of spades, giving us trip aces. Now the under the gun player decides to slow down and puts in a check. And I get a little deceptive here and think that the best play to try to build equity here and build a pot, not equity, build a pot, is to check back. So I go ahead and check back, and the river is gin. We see the 10 of diamonds on the river giving us a full house. We're only losing to ace jack here. And better yet, now the player in the early position decides to bet on this river card. He makes it 35 to go, and of course I'm going to be raising here for value. The question is how much should I be raising here? And I go with $100 sizing. I actually think I could probably size up here on this river, because if he's got an ace, he's not going to fold trip aces. If he's got a boat, he's not folding a boat. Obviously, if he's got ace-jack, he's going to re-raise. If he's got a hand like ace-9, he's going to re-raise. And any trip aces, I think, here, like ace-queen, ace-9 is a boat, ace-8, ace-7, ace-6. Just all the ace rag hands that he can limp call with here under the gun are definitely not going to be folding. So I think I could probably size up targeting that ace-x hand. $100 though is what I go with, and I don't think he was calling anything because after thinking for maybe 15 seconds, he folds. So we don't get any additional value here with our rivered full house, but that is the hand, and it was a significant enough pot where I felt like I should share it with all of you. So there you have it. We win this one, and we move on to the next one.
If there's one thing I love in life, it's the ladies. Oh yeah, the pocket queens and the small blind. We do see a player who limps, who's effectively in the cutoff. I go ahead and raise it up. I make it 15 to go. Yeah, the blue chips don't play. I got to take those back. I forget about that sometimes at these 2-5 games. No $1 chips in play. But anyway, we go to a flop heads up after the big blind calls, and it's a pretty raggy board. We see 8 deuce 3 with 2 diamonds. So I go ahead and check, and he quickly checks it back. So we're going to go to a turn card here. The turn is a deuce of clubs. So it pairs the board, and I think he can have a lot of deuces here, but I think I can also still have the best hand quite often here. So I go ahead and fire out for value for $20 on this board pairing turn card, and he quickly calls. So off to a river, which doesn't really change anything. It's the 4 of spades, I believe, if I remember correctly. It's either the 4 of spades or the 4 of clubs, but doesn't change much. I mean, yes, there is a straight draw that completed, but I guess if he's got that, then more power to him. I go ahead and fire out here for $40. And it's funny, immediately when I put this bet out, I thought he is going to raise here pretty frequently. And that is exactly what he does. He makes it 120 to go, and I just don't believe this for a second. The number one reason I don't believe him here is I just don't think he's going to have that many deuces in his range, and I don't think he's going to have that many straights either. Also, I'd seen him bluff earlier on a river where he got called by a player who had second pair, and second pair was good, so I know he's capable of bluffing. So I pretty much snap call his raise, and he turns over king 9 offsuit. And we end up taking this one down, successfully bluff catching with our ladies. I think raising on that river would have been a huge overplay, but I think calling there, you're going to be right pretty frequently, especially against a player where you know they're capable of bluffing and you've seen them bluff in previous hands. In this hand, we are effectively the cutoff. There's no player to my immediate left at the moment. That seat is open, so when I've got ace-3 of diamonds, I'd be open this in the hijack anyway, but, you know, we're in the cutoff, so when it folds to me, I go ahead and raise it up to 15. Button gets out of the way, small blind gets out of the way, but the big blind puts in the call, so we're going to go heads up to a flop here in position. Flop comes down queen, queen, 8 with 2 hearts. The big blind quickly checks it over to me, and I'm going to go ahead and fire out a continuation bet here, and I settle on a little over a half pot size bet of $20. He thinks about it for a little bit, checks his cards, and then decides on a fold as being the best course of action. So we're going to take down this pot here with our ace-3 of diamonds with our continuation bet. Sometimes just ABC poker gets the job done. This one gets a bit more interesting than the last one. This time we've got ace-jack offsuit. We're in the big blind. Action ends up folding around to the button. And this player has been fairly snug, fairly straightforward most of the session. Haven't seen him get out of line or do anything too crazy. And he goes ahead and fires out a raise here to $15. Small blind calls, and I go ahead and call as well. So we're going to go 3 ways here to a flop. Flop comes down giving us top pair, top kicker, but it is a pretty connected, pretty wet dynamic board. We see jack 10-7 with 2 spades. Small blind starts things off with a check. I go ahead and check to the pre-flop aggressor, and the button fires out a continuation bet here of $25, and the small blind pretty much snap calls the $25 continuation bet. And I decide to go with a check raised line here. I don't really want to see a spade or an 8 or a 9 that's going to slow down the action here on the turn, so I raise it up. I go to $75. trying to push the action a little bit here on this flop. I think I have the best hand. I think I can get value from worse Jack X hands and from draws. Button quickly folds, and now it's over to the small blind, who does not fold, and he seems like he is in a really tough spot. He starts asking me if I will show if he does fold. He starts saying something about me having a set of sevens in this spot, and he's almost certain that I'm going to show him a set. And I do not have a set, sir. I wish I had a set, but I do not have a set. I have top pair, top kicker, which is still a pretty damn good hand, but it is not as strong as a set. I think the more he talks, the more it sounds like he's got ace-jack. And I'm starting to think that this might end up being a chop, and I really don't want to play for a chop. So as he tanks more and more, and he continues to talk and look at his cards, I finally just tell him, I say, I will show you, sir, if you go ahead and fold. And then he audibly announces a fold, and he asks to see my cards. So that is what happens here, and I don't know if this was the right play, but the read that I had is that we were probably playing for a chop. Maybe he had king-jack or queen-jack, but it turns out he just had ace-jack of diamonds, so he had the same hand. And I show him my cards, and he says, oh, it was a chop. We end up taking this one down and not having to chop this pot. So not sure about that one, but the read that I had was spot on. The way he was talking about it really kind of gave it away. It, turned his cards face up, if you will. Now we improve to a pocket pair, and we are on the button in this one. We look down at pocket nines. The action ends up folding around to me, and I go ahead and announce a raise and put in the standard $15 that I've been using as my pre-flop raise size. And both the blinds get out of the way, so we are going to end up stealing the blinds once again here. Not the worst outcome in the world, but, wouldn't mind a little action with our pocket nines. Speaking of a hand you want to get some action with, pocket aces in the big blind. $10 straddle is on, the under the gun straddle is on. First player to act decides to get out of the way, and unfortunately everyone else decides to get out of the way as well. So the action folds around to me, and I'm sitting here out of position with the best starting hand in poker. You know I'm coming in for a raise, and I go ahead and announce a $35 raise. Player in the straddle looks at his cards and then decides to toy with me a little bit here. He flashes one, then flashes the other, and then folds, and I show him the ace of spades, and we don't get any action here with our aces. We take down the dead money once again. Seems like the table is getting a bit tighter and things are kind of winding down here. It's about 10 o'clock at night as we start this hand, and I'm in the small blind. We pick up another pocket pair here. This time it's a little pocket pair. We've got threes. The action ends up folding around to the button, who is the player we were up against when we had ace-jack offsuit. He decides to come in for a raise. He bumps it up to $15. I think I can call here with my pocket pair in the small blind. So that's what I do. I go ahead and put in the call, and the big blind goes ahead and calls as well. So we're going to go three ways here to a flop that comes down 7-6-4 with two spades. Not a terrible flop for pocket threes. I start things off with a check, and the big blind checks, and the button pretty much snap checks back as well. So three ways to a turn, which is the three of clubs, giving us a set. Now I think I can start to bet for value here. I go $20. Big blind quickly folds. Button pretty quickly calls, and we're off to the river, which is the nine of hearts. I think I want to keep betting for value here on this river. I think he can have a lot of one pair hands here that'll call. He might even get curious with some ace-high type hands here as well. So I go ahead and fire out for $45 here on the river. Puts the player and the button into the tank. So he thinks for quite some time here. He is not talking, though, during this hand. He did talk during the ace-jack hand, but he's not talking during this hand. So no speech play during this hand, as they say. So he's thinking and deciding on what he's going to do, and the longer he thinks, the more in my mind I am just saying, please call, please call, please call. I definitely want to get some value here with my set, and I think he can definitely have a hand that he's not going to be able to get away from. Any 7X hand, any 6 he probably would call. So whatever kind of, pair he might have in his hand. And as I mentioned, he might get curious with an ace-high type hand here as well. He counts out the chips. He's shuffling the chips. He's got the call right there in his hand. And eventually he does decide on a call. He goes ahead and puts in the chips. We show him the set. He tells me I didn't need the set of 3s on the turn, so he had deuces? I'm not quite sure what he's saying he had there, but anyway, we end up winning this one, and it's nice to get a little value with our turned set. We are going to end the session the same way we started the session, with pocket jacks. This time we are in the hijack, and it folds around to the player who's in the low jack, who raises it up to 15. This is the same player we were up against in the previous hand, and the same player we were up against when we had ace-jack offsuit. And I'm going to be 3-betting it. I go to $45. This player is going to think I'm picking on him, but the reality is I'm just getting some good cards, so it's nothing personal here. Folds back around to the player in the low jack, who goes into the tank for quite a bit here, thinking about whether or not he wants to call. I start to get a feeling like he might be thinking about a raise here, which would not be ideal when we have pocket jacks, but I don't think I'm going to be going anywhere. Even if he does put in the 4-bet, I think we can still profitably call and go to a flop. Now, it depends on how large he 4-bets, but most players don't go too big when they do the whole 4-bet thing. So folds back around to the player in the low jack, who does eventually stick in the additional call, and we are going to go heads up here to a flop. Hopefully the flop is a decent one for our pocket jack. So when we see 4-3 deuce rainbow, I'd say that's probably about as good as I could hope for with a hand like pocket jacks. Low jack checks. I continuation bet here for $40, and he doesn't think too long before showing me king queen of spades and letting his hand go. So we end up taking down this pot to end the session with our pocket jacks. Same way we started the session, winning a hand with pocket jacks. We end the session winning with a hand, pocket jacks.
All right, that is going to do it for episode 49. I hope you guys all enjoyed the poker hands. If you did, please hit that like button. Consider subscribing to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss future episodes. We just recently passed 2,000 subscribers on this channel. I know that's not a lot, but it's a lot for me, and I'm really trying to push to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you could just take 2 seconds of your day and hit that subscribe button, I would really appreciate it. Thank you all for the support. Thank you all for the comments and feedback. We were in this game for 500. We did not have to rebuy, which is always a plus. And we ended up cashing out for $850 on the button. So we profit $350 over 6 hours of play. So not a bad night at the poker table. Although I am looking to try to book some larger wins, some 4-figure wins on the vlog. So stay tuned for that in future episodes. That's going to do it for episode 49. I will see you all in episode 50. Until then, be well. Good luck at the tables. Peace.